Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the 5th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions and Statutory Authorities, including the Tobago House of Assembly of the 13th Parliament. This is the committee's first public hearing with stakeholders pursuant to its inquiry into the performance of municipal corporations with a focus on road repairs and maintenance. Members of the listening and viewing public are invited to post or send comments via the Parliament's various social media platforms, Facebook page, ParlView, the Parliament's YouTube channel, and X, formerly known as Twitter. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at TT Committees, TTPARLCOMMITTEES, for real-time updates and highlights from committee meetings. At this stage, I would like to invite all our officials here and our corporations to introduce themselves and their representatives. And we're starting with the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. Peter Mitchell, Permanent Secretary Acting, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. And I'm here with Ms. Nadine David Figaro, Acting Director, Municipal Corporation Relations, and Mr. Mahadio Balrup, who is the Technical Officer in charge of our Engineering Unit.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Mr. Akil Dillion, Engineering and Surveying Officer at Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. And accompanying me is my Road Officer 3, Mr. Justin Blackmon.
Thank you. We will proceed with Sangre Grande Regional Corporation.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Chairman. My name is Angela Davis. I represent the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, and accompanying me is Ms. Anisha Rampasad, the Road Officer for Tamana, Valencia.
Thank you. Next, Kuva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Henry Awang. Accompanying me is our County Superintendent, Mr. Anand Jagmohan.
Thank you. Now, San Juan Lavantil Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, all. Richard Walker, Chairman. Accompanying me this afternoon is our engineer, Mr. Ramkisoon.
Thank you. Miaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation. Thank you. Point Fortin Borough Corporation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Jade Sabrati, Town Engineer at the Point Fortin Borough Corporation. Accompanying me is the Acting Town Superintendent, Mr. Ian Alut.
Thank you. And lastly, Princestown Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Saruma Rupnarain, the Acting Deputy CEO at the Princestown Regional Corporation, and accompanying me today is the engineer, Mr. Masood Mohammed.
Thank you. And I am Candace Jones Simmons, Independent Senator and Chair of this committee. At this stage, I'd like to invite the other members of the committee to introduce themselves, starting with Madam Vice Chair.
Good afternoon, all. I am Michelle Benjamin, Vice Chair and Minister of Culture. Good day.
Good afternoon to you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and those of you joining us. I'm Member Mohit, member of the committee, looking forward to our fruitful discussions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, all members present. I am Curry Marcel, and I'm a Member of Parliament for Lavantil West, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, through you, Madam Chair. I'm Faris Al-Rawi, member of this committee, and I take this opportunity, Madam Chair. The scope of this inquiry involves 3 years of perspective. I declare that I was the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government for the 2-year period of these 3 years. And therefore, I just wanted that noted on the record. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members, everyone viewing. I am Senator Natalie Chaitan Maraj for the government. Looking forward to the inquiry and the revelations this evening.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members, attendees. I am Prakash Prasad, a member of the committee.
Thank you all. This committee is ably supported by Mr. Julian Ogilvie, Secretary to the committee, and he is assisted by Mr. Brian Lucio, Assistant Secretary, and we also have support from the team of parliamentary research specialists. So I would just briefly go through the rationale for this inquiry. The condition of our nation's roads has a direct and profound impact on the livelihoods and overall quality of life of our citizens. And our road network forms the backbone of the national transportation system, influencing not only mobility, but also social, economic, environmental, and security landscape of our country. It is therefore unsurprising that members of the public have consistently expressed concern and dissatisfaction regarding delayed repairs, insufficient resource allocation, and the uneven standard of maintenance across municipal corporations. For taxpayers, the government's basic obligation to its citizens is to provide safe, well-maintained roads so that they can conduct their day-to-day business. This obligation requires that public agencies at all levels implement and sustain effective road maintenance programs that are capable of promptly identifying defects, addressing both natural and man-made hazards, repairing deteriorated infrastructure, and deploying the necessary resources in a timely and efficient manner to ensure that our roads remain in a serviceable condition. At the same time, it must be acknowledged that the management, maintenance, and regulation of roadways are inherently complex undertakings and demand coordination, clarity of roles, sustained collaboration among various agencies and entities. In this context, the purpose of the committee's inquiry is to critically examine the role of local government bodies in the repair and maintenance of the road network within their jurisdiction, specifically secondary and local roads. And in that vein, our objectives have been to examine the role of the municipal corporations in facilitating road repairs and maintenance, to assess the effectiveness of the corporations over the last 3 years in implementing their mandate in relation to road repairs and maintenance, and lastly, to examine the implications of the proposed local government reform initiatives on the role and function of the municipal corporations with regard to road repairs and maintenance. At this stage, I would like to invite the following persons, and I will announce your name, and to give brief opening remarks. Because it's several corporations today, 7 of you, I believe, we are asking you to restrict those opening remarks to 1 minute. And we are going to start with Mr. Peter Mitchell.
Hi, good afternoon again. The 40 municipal corporations overseen by the ministry are mandated to deliver local government services to the communities of Trinidad. Among these, routine and small to medium-scale road rehabilitation works are executed with high frequency, funded both under the development program and recurrent expenditure. Such a priority focus is necessary as local roads represent one of the more tangible interfaces between the state and the people. The ministry acknowledges that municipal corporations operate within real fiscal and human resource constraints, which can cause variable performance. In response, the ministry is taking deliberate steps to strengthen their procurement and project management capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And next we have Mr. Henry Awang.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In my remarks, I want to show the committee and give a brief description of the Cuba Tabaco Talpa Regional Corporation. This corporation is one of the largest corporations in Trinidad. It encompasses a geographical space of 719.6 square kilometers. It has a population of over 186,000 people. Sorry, yeah, I think I'm right, 186,000. It's also partly rural as well. Great part of it is rural. And it also forms part of the Caroni Plain, and also the Central Range runs through the regional corporation as well. So I'm saying that to establish that when we consider road repairs and road maintenance, we have to consider landslides as well. And a great part of the region, in the higher areas, will have a lot of landslides as well. To fix one landslide could cost you a couple of million well. We have tried to establish a special line item for landslide stabilization. We was not successful with that at the Ministry of Finance, right? Because your landslide program could take up your whole vote for road repairs. And that is not something that, it doesn't augur well for the corporation when we're planning road maintenance. The funding never would be enough. So I just want to start with that, and that's what I'll say. I think my minute is up. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Awang. We move on to Mr. Raymond Cozier, Chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair. At Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, I say Mayaro is the Miami of Trinidad, and we has been battling to provide that kind of support for all our visitors to Mayaro. We are coupled with energy workers, farming workers, and visitors to our shores. We too are faced with a numerous amount of landslide, which is, the budget is never enough, so it's difficult to maintain access to all parts of our areas. But we at times have to prioritize which road to repair, which road to leave, because of the availability of funding that's available to us. However, we try our endeavor to ensure that most of our roads are accessible, most of our bridges are accessible, and we have been doing a fairly good job thus far.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Mr. Cozier. We move on to Ms. Jade Subrati, Town Engineer of the Point Fortin Borough Corporation.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. It is a privilege to appear before this Joint Select Committee on behalf of the Point Fortin Borough Corporation as we engage in these important inquiries into the performance of the corporation with particular focus on the road repair and maintenance. The conditions of our road and infrastructure is not merely a matter of convenience, but it directly impacts the economical activities, the public safety, access to essential services, and overall quality of life to our burgesses. We recognize that the responsibility entrusted to us in maintaining the improvements of our roadway is both significant and deeply consequential. It is our hope that today's discussion provides a valuable opportunity for reflection, accountability, and constructive dialogue. We welcome the committee's scrutiny as part of the broader effort to strengthen governance, improve service delivery, and promote transparency. At the Point Fortin Borough Corporation, we remain committed to continuous improvement while we acknowledge the challenges. In closing, we look forward to contributing meaningfully to this inquiry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Subrati. We now invite Mr. Masood Mohammed, Engineering and Survey Officer at the Princestown Regional Corporation.
So Princestown Regional Corporation is the 4th largest corporation within the country. The corporation, through its technical department, is responsible for the development, maintenance, and upkeep of local roads under the corporation's purview. There are over 631 roads, right, measuring approximately 540 kilometers under the purview of the corporation. These roads are maintained on a quarterly program basis under our recurrent services program, and major development works and rehabilitation works are undertaken through the public sector investment program. The region is divided into 3 administrative wards or districts, encompassing 10 electoral districts. There is a total of 10 construction teams and 16 maintenance teams under the technical department. I would like to say that over time, these roadways would have exceeded its design lifespan, which as a result has become degraded and deteriorated, not only requiring ongoing maintenance, but also new rehabilitation works to upgrade and improve its road infrastructure. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Next, I wish to invite Ms. Angela Davis, Engineering and Survey Officer at the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation.
Hi, good day. Good day, Madam Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for providing me the privilege of being here to speak for the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation. At the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, we do acknowledge our responsibility and our task of maintaining the road systems in order for the everyday person to have access to important services, especially emergency services. I would like to say that Sangre Grande has the largest area, even though it has the lowest population, but that does not take away from the fact that we have a very large road network and a deteriorating road network. We service a lot of agricultural areas, and currently one of our major complaints is access for those produce that exit these farm areas. Our resources are very limited, but we do work with what we have to get work done in our area. So while we do have constraints, I'd like to say that I am proud of our corporation for executing work on a year-to-year basis and for addressing the needs of our burgesses. So I do welcome this inquiry, and I do hope that from this we can all come to a consensus on moving forward in improving our road networks across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Next, we have Mr. Richard Walcott, Alderman and Chairman of the San Juan Laventil Regional Corporation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. I welcome this committee so that we can look at the entire road system on the local government. To get to this point, to get to Parliament, one has to pass through San Juan Laventil. To leave Port of Spain, to leave Parliament, one has to pass through San Juan Laventil. So therefore, the roads in our region is very, very important to us, ensuring that we have roads that everybody can utilize in a very satisfactory manner. Our burgesses depend on us to ensure that we have proper roads leading to our schools, leading to our famous Maracas Beach. So therefore, we need funding to ensure that we maintain our road system in our region. So I'm happy to be here representing my regional corporation, and we can look forward to getting solutions to deal with the problems that faces us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walcott. And now we have Mr. Akil De Leon, Engineering and Survey Officer at the Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable members of the committee. The Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation is one of the most active and densely developed municipal corporations in Trinidad and Tobago. It includes major urban areas, commercial hubs, transportation corridors, and rapidly expanding residential communities. We also include coastal areas and rural areas. Right? This places a significant and continuous demand on our infrastructure system. Given the size and the level of activity within the region, we manage high service demands with limited resources, while also addressing challenges such as aging infrastructure, encroachment issues, and coordination with other agencies. Right? And we look forward to providing this committee with clear technical insights into these matters and to contribute to a practical solution for improving the service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. At this time, I wish to remind both members and officials that all questions and concerns are to be directed through the chair. When you are speaking, please activate your microphones, and when you have finished your contribution, kindly turn it off. And now the hearing will proceed. All right, so for the first part of this inquiry, we are going to turn our attention to the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. And to start us off with the questions, we have Madam Vice Chair, Ms. Michelle Benjamin. She has a few questions for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, through you to the Permanent Secretary. In your submission, you stated that the role of the municipal corporations in relation to road repairs and maintenance has remained largely consistent over the last 3 years. And we all know with regards that we're looking at 2022 to 2025, with corporations continuing to execute routine and minimum scale road rehabilitation works. For the benefit of the listening and viewing public, can you clarify what specific road repair and maintenance function remain, and this is important, remain directly underneath the ministry, and what is the responsibility of the municipal corporations?
All right, Madam Chair, member. The ministry retains responsibility for those secondary roads that basically cross municipal boundaries, so that we, through our engineering unit, will procure contractors to do those road repairs. We have the line items under the development program for restoration of local roads, restoration of bridges, and restoration of drainage. That's the first part. The second part is where municipal corporations need assistance, both technical and financial. The ministry will either do that in-house, or we will have our special purpose company, the Rural Development Company, scope the necessary project and fund those projects under the Infrastructure Development Fund. So that's basically where the role of the ministry is.
Madam Chair, through you, and again, for the sake of the listening and the viewing public, Permanent Secretary, I'm not sure if you're able to provide us with the number of roads that was fixed within this specific time period that is underneath review, and if so, could you do it by corporation? And I know that you would have given a selection as to how that is done. But if you could provide us with a number as to how much was repaired within the time period that is under review with regards to this committee.
Right, member. We can provide you that with detailed listing, but I don't know if we have an average number, Mr. Barrett. Approximately about 15 to 20.
Roads?
Yeah.
Throughout the entire country, Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, that the ministry took responsibility for.
And given that it's 15 to 20, and we're dealing with 14 municipalities, how, and if you could give me an idea as to where those roads were fixed?
We can provide that in writing.
Okay. Over the 3-year period?
Madam Chair, through you to the Permanent Secretary.
Sure, go ahead.
You said that there were about 20-something roads repaired within the 3-year period, in terms of conducted by the ministry itself. Does that take into consideration roads executed under the Rural Development Company and all your municipal corporations?
No, just what the member asked.
I just want to be clear.
What the member asked was what was executed and managed by the ministry. And as I alluded to, we do it either directly or we will engage the RDC.
Yeah. So in terms of the RDC, so you're saying that within that period, 2022 to 2025, that the RDC executing the roads on behalf of the ministry, that the RDC only repaired or constructed 20-something roads within that 3-year period?
Yeah, for the ministry.
All right.
Right.
All right, so let me...
Okay.
15?
Yeah, the head office. Yeah.
Only for the head office?
Yeah.
So in terms of, I know that you said that the rural development company is your executing agency for projects. And you remain with the responsibility of the RDC under the ministry, correct?
As of now, yes, it's gazetted under us.
In that 2022 to 2025 period, will the RDC carrying out works outside of what the ministry may have requested, just to be clear?
Right. Remember, as I said, some corporations may ask us to assist in road repairs. So either we will engage contractors to do road repairs on behalf of those corporations, or we may have the RDC scope out roadworks on behalf of the corporation.
Understood.
But again, Madam Chair, again through you, for clarity, whether it be the ministry directly or your executing arm, you're saying holistically for the time period in question by this committee is 15 roads for the...
Right. What the technical officers tell me, there in some cases, RDC executes road repairs based on representation made to them on behalf of the municipal corporation, because your initial question was what the ministry does. This is the head office of the ministry.
Okay.
Right?
So
Yeah.
for clarity, again, Madam Chair, through you, 15 roads for the time period in question, 2022 to 2025, 15 roads were done underneath the ministry. And could we get a number with regards to RDC?
Yes, we could provide that in writing.
Member Mohit, I acknowledge you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the PS or any technical officer who's with you. 15 roads 2022 to 2025. Under which circumstances would these projects would have been identified by the ministry to be done? And what is the criteria used to select these roads, given that you have the municipal corporations conducting repairs or road paving works, etc., because we are dealing with repairs and maintenance under their DP program. So what is the criteria used to select, what was the criteria used, given that we are dealing with a past period?
Okay, I think that's a technical question. I'll ask the head of engineering to give you the criteria.
Madam Chair, member, the ministry would investigate complaints coming from either, if a request comes either from the corporations, the councillors, member of parliaments, members of the public. We would undertake a scoping exercise and make a recommendation based on the number of persons affected, the existing conditions of the road, if it's an important arterial road, the usage in terms of high traffic, etc. And based on those, we would recommend and place on a matter of priority in our draft estimate. Each individual project is given a priority number. Depending on the allocation for the fiscal year, we would undertake those with a higher priority number.
Madam Chair, through you, based on the answer given by the technical officer, Madam Chair, in my time as a councillor and my time period as member of parliament, I would have written on several occasions. You would have heard the technical officer with regards to the Princestown Regional Corporation itemizing that underneath the remit of the corporation, there is 631 roads. I could tell you intimately with regards to the constituency that I'm the member of parliament for, we have on local roads, I would say over 76 landslips, and I stand to be corrected. It could be more. And I don't want to bring one of the members into my question, but I'm on record as of writing the most letters between the time period 2020 to 2025 with regards to complaints in the constituency of Murga Tablan. The member himself is on record of making that statement. It's on Hansard in this August chamber, the House of the People Parliament. And I find it extremely difficult because I've been a member of the public, an elected member. I cannot see that response and prioritizing. And I could tell you on record, 4 homes, 1 street, Madingo, and we were never prioritized. I could tell you this. So I find it hard to sit down here and to take that as an answer that being a member of this committee that I could accept. And I do apologize.
Member Massa, I acknowledge you.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. Permanent Secretary, or perhaps the technical officer, you said that you would receive the complaints from the different corporations, you would receive complaints from MPs, councillors, etc., and then you would assess it, and then it may go in terms of your draft estimate, in terms of a list of priority. When that list is submitted, may I ask, 1, who is the list submitted? 1, who is the list prepared by? 2, who is it submitted to? And 3, who gives the approval?
Let me start. The list is prepared by the technical staff of the engineering unit, and they'll send a file up to my office. Now, if our funding level under the development program that is funded by the consolidated fund, because how much we can do at the ministry level is a function of the allocation we receive in the annual budget exercise. That under the consolidated fund, I would review it with the technical officer, and we will prioritize what we would do. Now, if it's under the infrastructure development fund, that listing usually goes to the minister for his or her information, and if they have any further suggestions or whatever, because the IDF operates in a different modality than the consolidated fund, right? So usually the item, what we have under the consolidated fund is restoration of local roads, and depending on the allocation, it is up to the technical staff to advise me on the prioritization based on the initial criteria that the technical officer set. Okay, so that is how it works as of now. Yeah.
Member Prasad.
Through you, Chairperson, to the PS, when you say 14, 15 roads, I think for clarity, a road could range from maybe a mile, 10 miles, so we can get a more objective measure. So I would think in future we should have something as a number of miles or kilometers of road that's repaired. Secondly, repair is a very general term again. Did you repair one pothole over 10 miles? Did you repave the road, etc.? So in future, Madam Chair, I would think we need some more defined criteria, specifics, so it makes more sense when we listen to this. Thank you. Okay. I don't know if the PS want to respond to that now.
I wish to recommend that he can provide that in
writing.
Sure.
Remember, we do have that in terms of kilometers done and so forth. So, yeah, we can provide that. Once the committee makes the request in writing, the secretary normally writes me, and then we will provide that. Yeah.
Seeing that we are requesting that in writing, if when it's being presented to the committee, if I'm hearing the PS and the technical officer speaking about allocations over the period of time, if we can have the allocation listed for 22, 23, 24, 25, and the name of each road out of, well, all 15, the cost of each project, and of course, as you said, the miles or kilos, the length of each. If we can include those things in it, please.
Okay, it's been noted.
Sorry, Madam Chair, in addition to that, it was stated that reports come from members of the public, councillors, MPs, regional corporations. If that can accompany the submission.
Okay. Member Marcel, there were some questions that you wished to ask on monitoring of performance.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. PS, in relation to your submission, you stated that there was a limited overlap amongst the Ministry, the Municipal Corporation, and the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, particularly in relation to the road habilitation and minor infrastructure works, and that matters are generally managed through consultations, project vetting, program oversight, and inspections. Can you indicate or elaborate on what you mean by limited overlap between the municipal corporations, your ministry, as well as the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure?
Right. Member, through Chair. What I mean by limited overlap is that because we have this constant dialogue with the other agencies, you will not find that we allocate money to repair a particular road and Ministry of Works and Infrastructure does the same thing, and even Ministry of Agriculture, because Ministry of Agriculture also has a responsibility for certain roads. So that's what I mean by limited overlap. And our engineering unit does liaise with the pure unit in Ministry of Works and the construction division, the highways division, and so forth. So that's what I mean by overlap, because what we don't want to do, because public funding is very scarce, we don't want to ensure that the public purse is used to double dip, as it were, as they say. So that's what I mean by limited overlap. It may not be perfect, but we still try, and it has had reasonable success, because even up to this week, the PS of Ministry of Works and I were collaborating over a road in Kufa.
Understood.
Yeah.
In cases of the overlap, what steps were taken between 2022 and 2025, and perhaps even now, to eliminate or reduce those overlaps and to better improve in terms of the collaboration, in terms of whether it is human resources, whether it is put in the ample human resources at the municipal corporations, technical expertise at the ministry? What steps did your ministry take in order to eliminate, if any?
I'll start with the management side and have Mr. Barrow deal with the technical side. At the management side, what we have done is in terms of trying to ensure that we engage on contract more engineers and survey officers, because the more engineers in the field, they can relate to their counterpart at the district areas for the Ministry of Works, because the Ministry of Works is also divided into various districts. Also, we employ within the ministry, as part of our digital transformation agenda, the executive reporting framework, where all the information goes into a central database, so that we are aware hopefully in real time. It's still in its infancy in terms of measuring what roads will be done, where it's be done, which agency is doing it. So we are aware even beforehand. And as I said, we are deepening our relationship with the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure.
Yeah, I've heard the term change agents being mentioned through the ministry in terms of their role in the corporations. Can you explain, just briefly, what were the rules of change agents in terms of the ministry to the and with their relationship between the corporation and your ministry?
Okay. We employ change agents over a specific period. They were embedded in the corporation pending our development of our information system to provide that information in real time back to the corporation, as well as to provide that link between the corporation and the head office in specific areas. One of them was procurement. They have done a lot of work, particularly in terms of their research in terms of the road networks and whatever the case may be. They also done a lot of work in terms of local economic development We had a former business development unit, which is now a local economic development unit. So all that information is still residing in the ministry, and we are now using that information in terms of helping us build out our IT infrastructure and our information systems. Complementing the executive reporting framework, we have now started the operating reporting framework where we're doing at the municipal level, so each corporation can now have a database and so forth. Because you will understand, we have 14 corporations, and those 14 corporations, they will have similar issues in particular areas. A road will run right through a corporation. We need to have that documented in terms of to ensure that when funds are spent, that particular road is taken care of by both corporations. So that is what we need the ERF, ORF system. It's a system that is in its infancy. We hope when it is completed, that will eliminate any overlapping, and of course, it will also help us in terms of dealing with road maintenance in real time. But remember, I must emphasize, all of that I'm saying is a function of allocation.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So in your opinion, Mr. Permanent Secretary, do you believe that the change agents assisted you in terms of eliminating your overlap and improving your systems in terms of carrying out these functions?
Well, the change agent program was a project. Our project has a start and finish. So the project was successful in it. There's a policy shift in terms of how we're dealing with that. So the role of the change agents is now going to be incorporated because we are creating a lot of units, and the ministry at head office will be providing resources to the corporation. For example, the cabinet has decided on lead officers in each corporation. We are going to be, it's before FNGP, to put procurement officers in each corporation. We also in our development to recreate and redraft and reformat the public health system, which we realized from our experience that needs a little bit of focus, so we're going to do those things. So the change agent was a project. The project has finished, and what I am looking at and what I'm advising the Honorable Minister on is now we have to institutionalize some of these things. So in terms of an organizational structure perspective, we are hoping to institutionalize these things. But as I said, it's a policy decision that the Minister and the Cabinet will have to take, but we are working on in terms of institutionalizing a lot of the work that was done previously. The governments, as you know, will have different modalities of how to approach a transformation agenda, and the current administration is approaching it in this particular way by closing gaps at the head office and assisting the corporations by giving them resources in those particular areas.
Thank you very much, PS. PS, you have explained a lot in relation to the role that your ministry is heading in, but I'm not stating that the fundamental question that I ask, which is, I know that you told me that the project came to an end. I'm asking if in that particular period, whether it assisted with the overlap, and eliminating that overlap. So is it that they did in terms of the
I thought I did. I said that they provide a lot of information which we are using in terms of dealing with any overlapping. They provided information in terms of how we are dealing with identifying the road network. One of the things that they did is that we are looking at roads that we may thought that was under a municipal corporation, but it was a private road, or a road that we thought was a private road is really under the municipal corporation, and so forth. So the information is there, and we are working through on that.
All right. Let me ask PS, in moving along.
Okay.
In your submission.
Okay, sorry, as we're moving along, go ahead, yes.
Yeah. Yes, Madam Chair. Through you. In your submission, PS, you stated that municipal corporations are subject to a range of oversight mechanisms to monitor performance, and these include the submissions of monthly status reports detailing all of the development projects executed under local roads and bridges routes, and the operational reporting framework is currently being developed by the municipal corporations. In light of same, can you indicate what factors determine how often project site visits are conducted by the ministry's projects subunit to the different municipal corporations? That's first.
Based on the reports that we get through the ERF system, site visits are determined if we, for want of a better word, we use the traffic light, red light, green light, amber. So if we see that a project is not moving as it's supposed to be, and based on the reports, there are issues like, for example, in procurement or whatever, we may go and do a site visit or have discussions with the corporation on that particular thing. So that is how we try to look to see how projects are going. Because one of the things that the ministry is trying to do is help the corporation improve their implementation performance. And to do that, we must have systems and processes in place that we can provide assistance to the corporation to flag if there's a problem. So site visits is not done in the past where you wait for a project officer from head office to go down and then you start to build a road. What we are doing is the corporations could start under the new procurement legislation, but we only perform site visits in the most, not all, in terms of if we see a problem maybe happening or there's an issue to go and solve. And that is what we're doing, because we have to work smart. And that is what I try to instill on my colleagues in the ministry.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question from Member Benjamin.
Yes, Chair, through you. Permanent Secretary, comment of what my colleague just asked, right? The inquiry proposal, Table 2, records that total expenditure under the Local Roads and Bridges program across the 14 corporations fell from 108.9 million in fiscal 2023 to 23.13 million in fiscal 2024 and then 21 million in fiscal 2025. This is a decline of almost 80%. What would you explain to the committee is the principal cause of this contraction? And in so doing, in fiscal 2024, the total commitment across the 14 corporations was less than half of the prior year. So if some sort of explanation, and then there are 4 corporations that recorded 0 expenditure. And this goes again with regards to the monitoring exercise and value, and then taxpayers, and then you have Burgess's constituents as to why nothing is being done. What is the ministry's explanation, and what is the specific steps and intervention being done?
Well, as I alluded to very early in my opening dialogue, the amount of what we can do at head office is a function of allocation. With respect to the municipal corporation, member would recall that we moved from the Central Tenders Board to the procurement legislation in around 2023. That had caused some delays, even at head office and some of the corporations, in terms of being compliant with the new procurement regime. So 2023, I think it's April. April, the act was proclaimed. So I think from around there, 2023 and early 2024, you will see a significant drop in expenditure because of that transition with the procurements. And a lot of the corporations did explain that to us, and we would have been helping them in terms of getting their pro tem named procurement officer, following the procurement rules, making sure they have their procurement their procurement rules in place, and that caused that transition, as would have happened if you're moving to a different legislative regime almost overnight, in terms of, yes, we knew it was coming, but when it was proclaimed, there was a transition phase that I would say, from my own experience, that took about a year to solve. So I think 2025 would have been the first full fiscal year under the new procurement regime, right? So I think that is how I would explain the dip in performance between 23 and 24, both at head office and the municipal corporations.
Thank you, Permanent Sec. Madam Chair, through you. But with regards to the cut in allocation, that would be the explanation as well. We went from 108 million to 23 million in 1 year.
Well, the cut in allocation is what we would receive from the Ministry of Finance at the time. I can tell you from the figures you raised, I know from the draft estimates we submitted was a lot more than that.
These figures were based on submissions that we got from the ministry. So I'm reading directly from records that you gave to us.
Yeah, I know. In terms of the allocation, as I said, that the Ministry of Finance would have allocated to us a specific sum. So I know from year on year, there might have been a reduction in allocation on those line items that deals specifically with road repairs at head office and the corporations.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary. Madam Chair, through you, before we move on, given the problems that you would have itemized with regards to the procurement process, how many corporations have permanent procurement officers, or how many depend on short-term officers to run these exercises?
Most of them have procurement officers on short-term. A few of them would have used their previous tender clerks, which is a public service post, as their named procurement officers. And as I said, we, before F&GP at this time, is our proposal for procurement officers at the corporations on contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, PS.
Sorry. Before we proceed with you, Mr. Marcel, I believe there's a question from Member Al-Rawi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason that I declared an interest at the beginning of this inquiry is that I explained that I was the line minister in charge during the period that this was come up, so I'm compelled to put a few things on the record to assist in the questions that were directly asked so that the evidence before you is correct. I just remind Madam Chair that in the budget of 2024, which accounted for the 2023 period, the express disclosure from the ministry was that there was a 15% performance by the entire ministry as a result of the introduction of the public procurement law, that there had been a significant drop. Second point that I'd note is that the public procurement law had to be amended in respect of the population of the depository, because the ministry was faced with the fact that it could not procure from people who were not in the public procurement depository. So you were physically with no pool to procure from. And that would explain the precipitous drop as a matter of fact and law. These things have been disclosed in Parliament already. And the third thing that I must add to the record is that in the drop of expenditure, from allocation point of view, there was a drop because there was a special purpose company called CIRIC, Secondary Road Repair Company, which was created and populated with $200 million worth of revenue, which then went across to the Ministry of Works and Transport after it first landed at the Ministry of Rural Development. So that would assist in the explanations offered by the Permanent Secretary as to the public procurement legislation itself having a huge bite in respect of performance factors. But again, I remind that all of this is on the Hansard in the budget debates back to back.
Okay, thank you, Member Marcel.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. PS, in relation to the named procurement officers, and seeing that the named procurement officers would have only came about through the procurement legislation in 2023, in terms of the organizational structure, in terms of the public servants at the respective municipal corporations, are there any established positions for named procurement officers?
The corporations, no, not on the public service establishment. So what we're trying to do, and we await the guidance of F&GP, is to create the contract positions in the ministry. I don't want to go into the technicalities, but we do not create contract positions on the establishment of corporations, with the exception of the Legacy 4, those 4 under the SASC. So as I answered a member's question, prior to the procurement legislation, the Legacy 4 and some corporation would have had a clerk on the establishment that was dealing with the tenders. So what some CEOs would have done was to designate those tender clerks as the interim named procurement officer, because in the transition phase, you could have designated at head office. It is public knowledge that I have my AO5 doubling up, doing 2. She's my AO5 as well as my named procurement officer. Right. So soon I hope to have that function split. so that I can get a faster outturn.
Thank you very kindly, PS. In relation to that said issue, you would appreciate, PS, that pursuant to the Procurement Act, the roles and functions of a named procurement officer is substantially much more complex. The list of responsibilities much longer than a tender's clerk or whatever the case may be. So you have these members, these staff members, whether through the LASCSA or perhaps maybe even short term, adopting these additional responsibilities. Have you made any efforts to ensure that reasonable compensation is paid to these named procurement officers who are going above and beyond their scope, their original contractual scope and duties in order to be properly compensated?
As a matter of policy, that hasn't been determined, hasn't been considered as yet.
Do you think that it's worth considering?
That's a policy matter, and I think I don't want to be opinionated, because that requires a decision of the cabinet, because it involves increasing the numeration of public officers.
A matter of the CPO as well, and a matter of law under the public service rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question from Member Mohit, and then I will go to Member Benjamin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it has to do with road repairs and, some of these works given by corporations, that's of DP, works under the DP program, so it's contracted. From a ministry level, in terms of complaints coming from members of the public, as it relates to some of these projects, how does the ministry work to ensure that these corporations, when they engage contractors, they use some form of notice to proceed and time frame to complete work? How does the ministry, in addition to that question, does the ministry have anything in place by which they monitor these corporations, where corporations would, where contracts are awarded under corporations, and some of these contractors, they receive a start date, and months pass, and the contracts are not started, the projects are not started? What monitoring mechanism do you all use from the ministry towards these corporations?
As I said before, in terms when a member asked me about site visits, we are developing a system. It's sort of robust now in terms of flagging, as you said, because that is the concern that we have at head office, where the corporation award a contract. Because how we know that it hasn't started yet is when the corporation submit through my office to request confirmation of funds before you award a contract. And then when that confirmation is approved by the Ministry of Finance, it takes some time, and we're not seeing a request for release of funds. And that is where it will flag to us. Our project subunit right now is the one that flags some of these things. We are also looking within the ministry to improve our project monitoring capability, and it is part of what I consider we need to improve on the head office. With respect to the technical side, because you raised some points there that I know about, ask the technical officer to reply to it, because I know what you're saying. So I don't know if Mr. Baruch want to.
Madam Chair, a member, with respect to projects being awarded and contractors being issued their notice to commence and not starting the works in a timely manner, these contracts are generally what we call in the construction sector FIDIC contracts, and if a contractor fails to commence the works, there are clauses in which he has to be written to with respect to his failure to commence, or if he is not progressing at an acceptable rate, that he be written to. And failure to act, there are further notices that are served on a contractor, and after which, if still works hasn't commenced, then there's the option to terminate that contractor. These are clearly outlined in these FIDIC contracts. It is therefore a matter of enforcement by the individual corporations, by their technical staff, the technical unit.
Madam Chair, so I understand all of that. That's why I asked the question in terms of what monitoring mechanism is the ministry using? Because what I would want to ask, PS, I would take it that you are saying you are trying to develop one based on your response earlier. Do you have any list of errant contractors before you or the ministry?
The custodian for list of errant contractors will be the engineering unit.
Okay. Does the engineering unit have any type of list such as that? Errant contractors? Or you just leave it up to the corporation to enforce the clauses that are listed in the contract when awarded?
Madam Chair and member, if the ministry is not aware, and you did indicate, what monitoring mechanism there exists for the ministry to perhaps enforce, advise corporations with respect to these errant contractors. Just to answer your first question, no, we do not have a list. That information, I've been at the ministry for 5 years, and at my unit, I have not seen recommendations coming from corporations with respect to non-performance of contractors, as the case may be. Yeah.
Madam Chair, just 1 second, just to add to this. So, Madam Chair, based on what both technical and PS are saying to us today, when contracts are awarded at these regional corporations, a contractor claims to complete the job according to scope. In less than 2 to 3 weeks, the road is back to its old way. The reports come to the ministry. When persons are reporting it to the corporations, they don't get a response because the corporation itself is having a challenge. They are reporting it to councillors, they are reporting it to departments, etc. They don't get through. They come to the ministry. They write emails. They visit the ministry. What happens thereafter?
Let me answer that. First, I just want to preface from what Mr. Badrup said. What you're alluding to is the concept of contract management, which I am in discussion with my new supporting PS in terms of building that out in the ministries. Because what we have picked up is that complaints will come to my office from chairman and other chairmen about errant contractors. And when we investigate, we realize that is how the contract was worded and how the contract was being monitored. So one of the things the ministry, as the central coordinating entity, is doing is trying to bring the culture in terms of contract management. It's something that I found was an issue when in my previous ministry, the Ministry of Planning. So that is what we're planning to do. And your follow-up question to that is? You had a question.
I don't recall.
Mm-hmm.
But separate and apart from that, when I remember, I'll ask you again. But in terms of all of these, so we are saying local roads, which fall under the corporation, those are the roads that you are responsible for. But then we have these orphan roads based on the reform, that is. Now, persons request road repairs, etc., from the different municipalities. Now, every time in different corporations, you would hear about something called a vesting order.
Yes.
what has the ministry been doing about the vesting order and updating the vesting order? Because I understand corporations would have submitted a listing of orphan roads to the ministry for a while now, and they have not really heard much in terms of what's the next step. So can you just advise so the public
Sure.
would be aware, because several of them would go to their councillor, they would go to their MP to make representation,
Yeah.
and they would just be, several of them would have said to us, you know, they need to write a letter saying to, as they say, give up the road. They would write the letter, they would get the petitions done, they will come to you, well, we give up the road. Nobody visited, nobody assessed. So what is the latest with that?
Okay. I met with the Honorable Attorney General in January or early February as part of his meeting with ministries for legislative agenda. And one of the priorities I indicated to him, and the Minister of Rural Development concurred with my suggestion that we place vesting orders on the legislative agenda. We have begun working in collecting that information from the municipal corporation based on the initial information that was collected by the people who comprise the Change Agent Project in the beginning. We were at a challenge with that, not at the head office, in that the Honorable Minister of Rural Development and Local Government has set a deadline for all corporations to submit the required information that our legal services unit need to give to the Ministry of the Attorney General to put it in a legislative format. Unfortunately, some corporations were delayed. And what we don't want, what we're trying to avoid is doing partial vesting order legislation. Do some corporations today and some corporations tomorrow. So the Honorable Minister in her meeting with mayors and chairmen recently has said that there is a final deadline date because those vesting orders are very important in terms of how we deal with our, not only our local roads, but even our bridges, because bridges also comprise assets that may be, and as you know, there was an issue in South Trinidad, I think in 24, 25, where people clamoring for a corporation to fix a road, and when the corporation realized it belonged to an energy company. So that is what we're trying to avoid. Now, there are some roads, now some corporations took the initiative of speaking to people who own private roads, if you want to give it up to the corporations, and some have done so. And that is in their new vesting order package that is at our legal services. So right now, it is going through our initial review and checks before we submit it to the Ministry of the Attorney General to create the legislative framework for Parliament. Because I want to say, Honourable Member, the last time I was told the vesting orders was done, it was in 2000. And that's 20-something years ago. And some corporations have evolved since then. And the vesting orders, particularly in some corporations, will include inheriting recreation grounds left behind by the former Petrotrin, right? And Carney, right, yes. Yeah, Cuba Tabacate is one of those who submitted proposals for that. So that is where we are right now. It is advancing. I know it might be taking slow, but I think the Honourable Minister of Rural Development and Local Government wants to make sure that when this package goes to Parliament, it is comprehensive and concise, because it ties in with another initiative that the Minister is championing right now, so that we need to know what roads belong to which corporation.
Thank you. I'll invite one final question from Member Benjamin.
On that very point.
Okay, I will invite two final questions, one from Member Benjamin and the last one, Member Al-Rawi, before we move on to the municipal corporations.
Fresh questions on the same topic of vesting orders.
Okay, so I'll allow you to take, since it's directly related, and then I'll revert to Member Benjamin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, Honourable PS, a year and a day ago, when I left the issue of vesting orders, 13 out of 14 corporations had completed the exercise. There was one corporation left. Is that still the same position?
Yeah. The information we had at the time, we did a review because a lot of the corporations said they want to add to that initial list in that was there last year. And that is why I alluded to what the Vice Chair was saying about carrying assets and, of course, some assets. So that is what has caused the delay. With respect to that single corporation, I must say that we have worked with that corporation, and I think we are at a place where I can say we can give the Ministry of the Attorney General 14 corporations their investing order packages.
We just asked for a written update on the outstanding request for vesting orders. Is that possible?
Okay, I can verify with our Director of Legal if there's still any outstanding requests.
Thank you. Now, Member Benjamin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, through you, I have a question based on the current topic. And this is basically for the sake of the viewers. Could you clarify and properly define what are local roads, orphan roads, and agricultural access roads, given that some of it's supposed to be underneath the purview of corporations and that of the ministry?
Okay, local roads is what we call secondary roads, and they are primarily under the municipal corporations. They are roads off of main roads. The Ministry of Works and Infrastructure is responsible for highways and main roads. Agricultural access roads are under the Ministry of Agriculture. Well, I have to check if it moved to Ministry of Land and Legal Affairs. But agricultural access roads is access to farming communities and so forth. And the Ministry of Agriculture for decades have had a line item in the PSIP to fix those roads for farmers to access their crops and their lands. The orphan roads are roads where we cannot define who the owner is. That is being reduced right now, and I think that is what is causing, that had caused a delay in the vesting orders, because we have to do the research and check and so forth. So that's what we call orphan roads. And what happened over the years, there's one corporation that was maintaining a road that was not under its purview for 40 years. And we said that, did you try to find the owner? And they said they don't know who the owner is. So we said that if this road is beneficial to the community and you'll be maintaining it for 40 years, put that on the vesting order listing, because it is a benefit to the community. There's a particular road, which I can't remember right now, that is very important for a particular rural community. We don't know who the owner is, but that is the main access to that community. So let the regional corporation put it on their vesting orders. We'll deal with if an owner turns up sometime in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. P.S. Madam Chair, through you, I want to go back to something that my colleague asked with regards to errand contractors. And I found it extremely difficult that there's no listing of blacklisted contractors in the ministry, given that underneath your purview you have RDC. And RDC is responsible for roads, and contractors would have started. And again, I would use my constituency as an example. I have Penal Rock Road with regards to contractors from RDC operating. They would have started in 2020, vacate the contract, never did anything. I have failed retaining walls while the contractor is still executing his duties. So I find it extremely hard to sit down here and to actually listen that there is not a list of blacklisted contractors, especially given that if the ministry has some sort of purview, and I will allow you some sort of leeway that the municipal corporations could start, and they have the engineering bodies, but with projects directly under the ministry, that there are no contractors being blacklisted. I find that very hard. Madam Chair, if you would allow me, Permanent Secretary, across the 14 corporations, the cost per road project under the local roads and bridges vote varies considerably. Would the ministry tell the committee what is the average cost per linear meter of road rehabilitation was in each of the last 3 fiscal years, and whether any analysis has been done to understand the variation in costs across corporation? Is there any sort of standardization with regards to value for taxpayers' dollars?
I will ask the technical officer. That sounds like a very technical question.
Let's start with the first question again. Member Benjamin, the first question for the technical officer.
Right. With regards to, are we going back to the blacklisted?
No.
Okay.
No,
All
the
right.
question you just asked. 'Cause
All
you
right,
asked three
Permanent Secretary,
questions.
across the 14 corporations, the cost per road project for local roads and bridges, the vote varies. So I'm asking, basically, is there any standard cost per linear meter for road rehabilitation? Is there any standard measure that contractors adhere to, or does it vary?
Madam Chair Member, that cost would vary depending on the type of infrastructure works required, rehabilitation. Sometimes some roads, it requires milling and pave it, minor strengthening. Where roads have deteriorated significantly, it may mean that you would have to undertake base course or base major strengthening for sections and then paving on. Of course, when you to build these rates up, they would vary depending on the scope of works, depending on what is required for each project. And I'm certain the corporations here, they would have experienced that as well. Yeah, we can provide you with some figures in writing. After I consult with, of course, the corporation, we can provide further information if you wish.
The main thing I was trying to accomplish is some sort of basis where there is some value for money across the corporations. And a contractor can show up in Miaro and claim one thing for the same project and the same distance. So you could hear Miaro award a project, same road rehabilitation, same resurfacing, milling and resurfacing for 300,000, and then you go down to Point 14 and it is awarded. And these are just arbitrary examples for 600,000. There must be some sort of standard and where the taxpayers could get value for money, given that the ministry has the purview with regards to all the municipal corporations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I'd like to now turn to the municipal corporations.
Madam Chair.
I'm asking kindly if we can reserve those questions.
It's not a question, Madam Chair.
Is a comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, an important one.
And it's specifically about what, sorry?
It's about the blacklisting, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, very quickly, the public procurement law is what says an ineligibility listing is done. It is not for the ministers of rural development or local government to be involved in, or the permanent secretary. It's done by the Office of the Public Procurement. And therefore, just to point out for the record that it cannot be that there's a list prepared by the ministry, because that goes by the OPR. So I just wanted to correct the record on that, lest we're left with the impression that the ministry hasn't done something that it ought to. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to be very clear, we never asked at no given point in time if the ministry prepared a list. We asked if one exists at the ministry. Just to be very, very clear.
Yes, understood. And we will move along now to the municipal corporations. On that issue, Member Benjamin, I believe you had some questions that you wish to ask to start us off. And please indicate which corporation you'd like to direct your question to.
Madam Chair, I will start with Tunapuna. Your submissions indicated that the corporation utilizes routine field inspection reports from councillors and stakeholders, public complaints, and need-based prioritization with regards to framework, using technical and community input and assessment criteria to determine roads for repair. How frequently are routine field inspections conducted?
Through you, Chair, to the committee and to the member. It's based on the reports that we receive. Based on the reports, we try to go out on a weekly basis to conduct site visits and investigations. So once reports are made, we go out and do a field assessment. Based on the field assessment, a recommendation is then made, or an estimate is then prepared, and then it is recorded and forwarded based on the request or based on the investigation.
And again, Madam Chair, through you, does the corporation maintain an updated inventory of roads across every district. And again, I would like to direct this also to the permanent secretary. With regards to all the municipalities' reports, do you have a listing that would, all the defects across Trinidad and Tobago, all the municipalities? So it's a twofold question.
Just to clarify, you want to know if we have road defects?
A listing.
A listing?
Yes.
Do we have that? No, we don't. We don't.
So there is no network created. I know in the beginning, if memory serves me right, that you said order of prioritization. So the records are not kept with regards to the defects and monitoring of the roads? Central, no?
Mm-hmm. So she's asking about a centralized repository.
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you. There's no centralized database. I'm guessing that is what you're asking. If that information is submitted from the regional corporations to the ministry, and well, the short answer is no. We don't keep or we don't get that information at the ministry. The regional corporations, as the engineer would have indicated over time, they would update the information that they collect, but that information is not passed on to the ministry.
Just so that it's not lost, I believe Member Benjamin also directed that question specifically to Mr. De Leon. Yes?
So,
as in, do you maintain
yes, so we maintain
a defects recording?
So at the TPRC, we maintain a list with our inspections and our defects on the roads. So we maintain that list, and if it is a large enough request, then we would send it forward to the ministry, but that list is usually kept at the corporation.
Does any other corporation have a different approach, or is that the usual practice? I will assume that silence means that is usual practice. Member Massa.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. To Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, in relation to the identification, assessment, and prioritization of road repairs, that is in relation to same. So you get a complaint, let's say it's from your councillors, concerning a road that may need repair by way of patching rather than through a DP project. So my first question is, how do you go about across the board in terms of all your councillors in distributing the resources of the corporation to treat with spot patching or what we call patching potholes? What's the process from the moment that your councillor reports it to the delivery?
Truly, Chair, our process, the first step would be to identify the resources needed for the patching, whether it's available, especially for the district that the report would have come from. Once the resources are deemed to be available, then it is programmed in our program of works and executed accordingly.
So that is in terms of DP projects?
No,
that's in terms
of patching.
Patching?
Yes.
All right. So in terms of the patching, in terms of the hot mix and so on, do you procure it internally, or is it something where at times you may reach out to the Ministry of Works or different agencies in order to assist with the resources?
So in terms of assistance from other ministries with resources, if we do need material resources, that normally our councillors would request that, so that would be a partnership or an exchange in terms of material and labor. And so that would be in the allocation of resources phase. So if we need to get materials, once we source the materials, then we program it. So sourcing the materials could be through purchasing through recurrent funds, or through donations, seeking donations, or through partnerships with the ministry as the project comes about.
And when you say donations, you're talking about donations in terms of from private citizens, or you're talking about donations in terms of from different governmental organizations?
Well, we look at donations in terms of private.
Private? All right. Thank you very kindly.
Member Prasad, I will allow you shortly, but I just have one question and I will allow you. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you use the sort of, the other materials like crushed concrete or old asphalt, etc. Have you all used rubber crumbs?
No, at Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, we haven't used any bituminous material or rubber crumbs, as you would say.
Because it's something that, I mean, the old tires can be used. So it serves a double purpose, eh? Yeah.
I heard that here.
Any member of any corporation can answer that question, if it applies.
To you. Through you, Chair Committee, TPRC, we would have had a partnership with Query where we would have done utilizing the rubberized material. We would have done a pilot project on a test on one of the local roads within our area. And also, we would have also done a pilot project utilizing a cementous material to use in terms of on secondary roads.
Through you, Chair, can you tell us the result of the using the rubber crumbs?
So far the rubber crumbs, it has been standing up. It is in a road near to the corporation that is heavily used, and it is still being monitored in terms of the long-term use of it, as well as with the other project using the cementous material.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I have a question now, as Mr. De Leon. Since you answered the last question, I'll start with you, and I would also invite comments from other corporations on this question. To what extent do representations from the councillors and members of parliament influence the prioritization of roadworks?
Through you, Chair, to the committee, the corporation receive letters or complaints through members of the council or through members of parliament. The investigations would then be done based on the scope of the works. Based on the scope of the works, whether it could be programmed internally, it would be programmed and submitted to council for approval, or based on the size of it, it may be referred to another agency or advised to the councillor or to the member of parliament that the item should be referred to another agency that best suited based on the investigation or the scope of works.
But does it influence the prioritization?
I would say it is prepared. The priority of the works is based on the impact to the purchases. So based on the investigation, we look at how much the affected area would impact the purchases, and based on that, that is how the priority list is prepared.
Okay, and I open that question up to, let me hear from Mr. Awang.
Yeah, so when complaints come to the councillors, it is brought to the council meeting, and in this case, the physical infrastructure committee meeting that deal with the roads, etc., and so on. And it is placed there and for an officer to investigate and take the necessary action that is needed. So the officer may bring back an estimate to the council, say that this piece of work required so much and so much of funds to do, and if we do not have the fund at the point in time, then we still refer to a future development program. So it depends on the nature of the work, the scope of work that is to be done. But yes, and the program of works really is the council's program of works. So the council will determine what the program of works would be going forward.
Any formal written criteria that determines this priority for road repairs?
Not necessarily, but it depends on the nature of the work. If it's something that is an emergency piece of work, then yes, it will be given priority. Then other than that, will be in terms of first come, first serve kind of basis.
So the criterion is first come, first served basis first, and or emergencies first?
Emergencies first, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Member Marcel, and then I will go with Member Dr. Chaitan Maraj.
Thank you very kindly. Madam Chair. Mr. Ong, I know that you are very experienced, and in terms of the field, I want to ask this question concerning DP, if you can guide us on this. In terms of roads the roads in the different electoral districts of councillors on a yearly basis to be done, can you indicate whether, in terms of within each electoral district, whether councillors are given the ability to determine which of the roads are priority under DP, one, and two, in terms of the quantum across the board, in terms of in your corporation, for example, whether it is shared equally in terms of the allocation specifically to road repairs. If you can assist us with that, please.
Yes, so the allocation will be divided equally amongst all members of council, and the councillor for the particular electoral district will determine the priority in terms of project for his electoral district, his or her electoral district.
Thank you very kindly.
Yeah.
Before I move on, I know that I want to move to perhaps just two more corporations on that very same question. I'm going to ask San Juan Lavantil and Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, which is in the same question, which is in terms of the allocation of resources specifically for road repairs, for when it comes under DP, one, whether each of the councillors are given the freedom to choose their projects under their electoral districts, one, and two, in each fiscal year, and two, whether the quantum in terms of the amount of monies allocated to each electoral district and or councillor is shared equally.
And the answer to that question, member, is those two questions is yes. Councillors choose their projects, and yes, the funds are divided equally among all councillors.
And that's regard, and in San Juan Lavantil, you all have both. You all have a mixed council in terms of it's not a strict.
Yes, we do.
All right. And you have the same thing.
Yes.
Sangre Grande, please.
Through the chair, to respond to that question, yes, the councillors do have the freedom to choose their projects for DP in terms of the division of the allocation for DP projects. However, most of the time that will be done, normally it's done equally based on funding, but sometimes when we have a shortfall, then it will be done based on the value of the project. So let's say a project that was advocated for costs more than another councillors, but those are the projects that they are advocating for, then no, there wouldn't be an equal division in terms of the financial allocations.
All right. Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair.
Member Dr. Chaitan Maraj.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'm going to try to tie all of it, the last question and Member Marcel's question together to try to get some clarity. Going back to asking, to the positive response when asked if petitions from members of Parliament or councillors influence the urgency with which projects are done. And then as stated before that any project or any issue to be addressed is brought to the corporations by way of complaints or petitions done. So while I understand that many of the reports did state that there is transparency in procurement, my issue now is transparency in project selection. In saying that councillors are free to choose their DPs, I'm asking, and I would ask, specifically choosing Sangre Grande and Tunapuna because of their responses to the complaint sections part of this question, where the number of complaints brought to the corporation couldn't be positively identified. Tunapuna going ahead to further expound into the manner into which all the complaints are brought, which is not just through their members of Parliament or their councillors, but also collected through a plethora of emails, social media, phone calls, in writing, walk-ins. How is the transparency in project selection done if you cannot have a true picture of your complaints, of your base of problems? To both corporations, so Sangre Grande first.
So my response for that question would have been due to how we actually store the data on complaints. It's all manual. It's a written file as well as a logbook. So during that time, we have been able to categorize our complaints by going through the filing system as well as our logbooks. If you could, again, just please clarify the question.
Yeah, repeat the question. I'm asking for how the transparency in project selection is done if it is that it's been stated that urgency is given to issues raised by the Member of Parliament or by the councillors, but then there is a plethora of complaint portals by which burgesses can make complaints. Do you have a bank of these complaints compiled, and then how is the project selection, how are the DPs selected from this base of complaints?
Okay, so DPs don't just come from complaints, but complaints do help inform us on the condition of the roads and what needs to be done. Councillors would select DP projects because one of their roles is advocacy, and we do have a system where we collect and compile the complaints, but my response to the question my response would have been based on the time frame given to help to categorize, because they asked for the complaints to be put into broad categories. So because of the time frame, we weren't able to. However, I can furnish the committee with a written response at a later date, if so be.
So, through you, Chair, to the committee, when we receive the complaints are assessed. Different types of complaints require different types of solutions. Based on the investigation, if it's based on the works required, and when we do the estimate based on the cost, we would provide that recommendation to council that this project be done as a DP. And based on the relevant electoral district it falls in, as would have mentioned, the priority would be fall up to the relevant councillor for that area. But for the projects that are smaller and could be solved via that under the recurrent, that is assessed based on the resources that we have, and it is programmed on a program of works, and then submitted to council for approval for execution.
Member Mohit, you had a question?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I don't know how the PS will direct this particular question in terms of the corporations. Now, the period in which we are looking at is 22 to 25. Several corporations, based on their geographical size, at times would have faced challenges in terms of the amount of coal mix which corporations use, they can afford. At times, they may not have received releases also. So, the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, or Works and Transport at the time, would have provided hot mix to regional corporations. Permanent Secretary, is it possible for the regional corporations to submit to you and you to submit to this committee the number of loads of hot mix provided to each corporation during the period of time in which we are looking at in this inquiry?
Member, through Chair, we will attempt to see if we can get that information from Ministry.
Madam Chair, I don't think it should be a difficult attempt because from my liaison with corporations, the road officers, the technical officers, they keep a record of this. They have to provide the vehicle numbers, the truck numbers, to the Ministry of Works when these trucks are going to collect the materials, etc. So it shouldn't be difficult to pull for these years we are looking at and have that submission made to the committee. I'm asking this because several corporations you would have seen during this period of time. I mean, I don't want to compromise the inquiry, but I myself had to purchase materials or seek corporate sponsorship, and I see some corporations would have submitted in their reports where they would have reached out to corporate persons to help provide materials because of the fact that they were having challenges in acquiring materials. Now, my next question is, PS, now, regional corporations, you would hear that they are accustomed to working with coal mix, their employees. But because of, the economic climate and so on of the country, and even the corporation's allocations for goods and services, not all the time they are able to purchase sufficient coal mix. So the Ministry of Works would have provided the hot mix to the corporations, but you would have gotten some pushback from some corporation workers that they are not prepared or equipped to deal with hot mix. What has the ministry done from the head office level to assist these corporations in at least training? Because now we've seen where they have no choice but to accept and work these materials. What has the ministry done from the head office level to assist these corporations to have these workers, etc., trained to handle the hot mix so they don't face that pushback from the workers?
Member, at this time, the ministry doesn't have the resources to train officers in the corporations at that level in terms of what you allude to with the hot mix and so forth. But I am aware of some corporations who indicated that there were resistance by workers. I remember in terms of doing the last draft estimates, whether that is, if that requires equipment, if you could make your submission, we will advocate for you in terms of giving you resources to purchase the right equipment and right PPE, as the term they use, for workers at the corporations. So once that is done, we will advocate to the Ministry of Finance for that. But in terms of training, we haven't really trained at that technical level.
Thank you, PS. Madam Chair, through you again. I mean, this has been happening over a period of time. Whilst you may not have the technical capacity through your officers, I think there's a collaborative approach if Ministry of Works is providing the material to your corporation. You're already providing transport, etc. I'm speaking about this because it impacts road repairs. I think there can be a collaborative approach in terms of equipping and preparing these road teams to conduct these works, because at the end of it, yes, unions will get involved, but they are also human, and I know as a representative you will want these works done as soon as possible. But at the same time, we must ensure that we have an approach to it and we don't just always say, okay, they are resisting, let's accept resistance, or let's find a way to deal with it. Purchasing equipment is one. Then you have this challenge at regional corporations to get people to work the equipment. P.S., I don't know if you visit these corporations, sometimes you give the equipment and a brand new piece of equipment, it's not working by the next 2 weeks. So there are the challenges in terms of the equipment as well. I think some of these chairmen here will agree with what I'm saying, or they have experienced what I'm speaking about. But if we have that collaborative approach, I think we can get somewhere.
Member point taken, and with respect to assets, we at the ministry, we are trying our best to see how we can assist the corporation in terms of asset maintenance. In my engineering unit head office, we finally got a mechanical engineer appointed by the Public Service Commission, so that is a step in that direction. It's a small step, but for us it's a giant step once that, because the post is filled. So we can provide that assistance to the corporation in terms of the asset maintenance, because we are aware with a lot of the regional corporations, and including one city corporation, that a lot of their mechanical assets are down for repairs and so forth. So we try our best to assist them with that.
Sure, this is why I'm stressing on the collaborative approach, because I think each ministry will have a training vote, right? So maybe you can explore this vote to see what you can do in the interest of the workers and the corporations and service delivery at the same time. Madam Chair, I have one more question, if you would permit me.
One more question. Go ahead.
Now, PS and technical officers, chairmen who are here, you would always find that councillors or even technical officers face an issue of your need within your corporation superseding your allocation. In other words, you never have enough money to do the projects that you want to do. I would like to know from a ministry level, because this is not a new problem, it's been happening for a while, what creative incentives in terms of engineering would you all have explored to deal with such a matter? And in addition to engineering incentives, collaborative approach.
Well, let me speak from the ministry's perspective. I have promoted, since I became PS and the accounting officer in 24, of collaborations by the municipal corporations. I started with the disaster management system, and that has worked very well in terms of pooling resources together. I can tell you in terms of, there's one particular corporation that has what we call in the ministry a low boy, and that's the only corporation that has that. And unfortunately, we've been using that corporation's good graces to assist other corporations moving heavy equipment to other corporations. One thing that what we are trying to do is I try to purchase equipment at head office by which we can supplement the municipal corporation in emergency needs. But that could only help in a little bit, because I cannot duplicate what municipal corporations are doing. So I'm not supposed to have a fleet of scavenging vehicles or a fleet of dump trucks. But in terms of the disaster management focus, I have tried to create at head office some equipment that I can support the other corporations that may have equipment deficiency, equipment challenges. So I don't throw my hands up in the air and say, we do have no money. So what I try at head office is see what I can do to help the corporations together while advocating for more money.
Okay, but PS, I'm speaking specifically to road repairs. By the way, which corporation is that has the low boy?
Princestown.
Okay. In terms of road repairs, the reason I'm asking this question, now you have Pure, you have other agencies, RDC, all of whom do roadworks. Now, when I speak about the need superseding the allocation, a lot of times during this period we are dealing with, we would have gotten responses in terms of a road falling under a regional corporation. The reason I asked about collaborative approach, to pave one road in a corporation, you need to undertake at least 2 to 3, based on the length of the road, DP projects to pave one road. This is a fact. Now, I'm asking about collaborative approach because you have these other agencies, despite these roads not falling under their remit. What has the ministry done during this period of time to get assistance from these entities to assist with road repairs and road paving so that we are not in this situation in which we are in today with so many potholes throughout the country? Now, if we have that collaborative approach, we will not be here. But if we say this road falls under the corporation, so by the time you fix this piece you have to put it up under the next year. Then by the time you reach here damage again, and it's always a piece paving that you do. So if you have that collaborative approach, then you get the assistance from Pure, you get the assistance from RDC, you get the assistance from several other agencies. Do you have any type of interagency committee which can assist the regional corporations to an extent with some of your local roads?
We don't have a committee per se, but we do collaborate with the Ministry of Works to assist us in certain areas. And it happened even up to last week, where the both PSs, we spoke and we communicated, and they took the initiative to repair a particular road in one of the large municipal corporations. So in terms of institutionalizing an interministerial committee between us and Ministry of Works, the collaboration is there at the PS level, it is there at the engineering level. In terms of RDC, I don't want to stray from the point. RDC operates with a different modality in that for RDC to undertake works, they need funding to undertake those works. And I just came off a JSC on RDC, so we spoke about that at length and so forth. But in terms of collaboration, it is there with the Ministry of Works. We do rely on them, and sometimes they even, when they identify something that is need of urgent repair, and it's under the municipal corporation, they would write me, or the PS will call me and said, I need your non-objection to undertake emergency works, and usually I would say yes, go ahead, and I will inform the respective corporation.
That's
because,
no.
Yeah, well.
That's no, yes. So
yeah.
I'm asking about the period. Well, I'm glad to know you are doing it now, but all I'm saying is we would not have been here if the approach was there during the period in which we are looking at.
Right. But let me preface, Madam Chair, my period. I became accounting officer on March 17, 2024. So I can be held accountable for things after March 17, 2024.
Well,
okay?
I'm glad you stated that, because
right.
that was going to be my next
right.
question.
So
since when you've been at the ministry,
yeah.
but I thought that may be getting a little too personal in terms of your position, hence the reason I did not ask it.
Thank you. I have a question from Member Marcel, and then I'll invite Member Benjamin to give her question.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. P.S. In relation to the purchasing of equipment specific to road repairs from the different respective municipal corporations, at my short time being an alderman at the Port of Spain City Corporation, we would have adopted a course in terms of using unspent balances to purchase some equipment here and there. In light of the indication in terms of a report, in terms of having issues, for example, having that one transport equipment in Princestown assisting the others, is it something that going forward we can perhaps see where unspent balances being used to purchase equipment in line with getting more road repairs done? That's the first question.
That has been a practice since I was there in terms of unspent balances. You have to get the approval of the Minister of Rural Development, Local Government to use unspent balance certain things, and that has been a practice under my tutelage. So I assume it was a practice before, but in recent times, I think you would have seen in the press where the Honourable Minister of Rural Development, with respect to unspent balances, a lot of these corporations have huge debts, and that is creating a legal issue. So I think right now for unspent balances, the priority is using those unspent balances to pay off your debts, because it is causing a concern. I am getting on my desk a lot of legal letters copied to me that is sent to the corporations. Not that they want me to pay, but they're alerting me that these corporations are not paying it. So in my discussions with the Honourable Minister, I think she has set a policy position that she will only approve approval for unspent balances until you pay off the debt. Now, some corporations have paid off their debts and have made representation for purchase of equipment for their respective corporations. So that is a practice. So that is nothing new.
All right, then. One follow-up question concerning that, and I'll just ask the brief question concerning the second substantial question. In relation to the same, if we are going to have a period going forward in terms of having unspent balances to pay debts, would there be a shortfall, you believe, in terms of either, because I know it's not a matter of only purchasing new equipment, but a lot of times it's to purchase significant parts for, so what in terms of the contingencies does the ministry intend to put in place in order to mitigate against a deficit concerning the proper corporations having the right amount of equipment, either new and as well in terms of the repair? That's my last question concerning that. And the other question that I have in terms of perhaps we can look at one or two of the corporations, especially those who didn't get an opportunity yet. And I think Princestown didn't get the opportunity yet. If you can, and Mayaro, if you can indicate, each corporation will have their chief officers, one of which being your head engineer. Many times you would have persons acting in that position. Sometimes you have a very low level in terms of the established position acting in that role, and may not have the capacity. They may not actually be an engineer. They may not actually have the qualifications in some circumstances. I want to know in your specific corporations, Mayaro and Princestown, whether your chief officer, in terms of your engineer, you believe have the capacity in order to effectively carry out your road repairs and infrastructure works. Thanks.
Before the corporations answer that question, just to let you know, a lot of the engineers are contract officers. They are chief officers, contract officers, and they are paid by the ministry and assigned to the corporations. So I think, you got one? Lisa, do you still got one? I know Mayaro had asked for one, but we are trying to fill. You got one? Right, good. Yeah, no, because I approve a lot of these things. I can't remember where EHR assigned them. So I just want to say that before the corporation act, because not many of them, except the Legacy 4, have public service engineers as their chief officer. They are mostly contract officers. They're called engineering and survey officers. Okay? Right.
The other question concerning the shortfall if you use unspent balances to continue paying debts, and you're not for the next few years not going to be, some of the corporations not being able to use the resources to either purchase new parts or new equipment. What is the mitigation your ministry intends to put in place?
The only mitigation we can do right now is advocate to the Ministry of Finance to make sure that under the respective votes that the corporation have enough, because these are public assets and they have to be maintained. The Ministry of Planning is also concerned about that because these are public assets that deal with a lot with the development program. So we are trying to advocate because those parts will be under the recurrent side. So we are advocating with the Ministry of Finance Budget Division on that regards. Beyond that, we will still do brainstorming how we can help the corporations to bring their assets up to par.
Thank you very kindly. And if we can hear from Princestown, Mayaro, concerning the specific question of the capacity in terms of your engineering head and department.
Through the chair to the member, at Princestown there is an engineering and survey officer, right? In terms of the technical capacity as well, we have a county superintendent, road officer 3, road officer 2, and we have road officer 1 who are there's one money paid road officer presently, and there are checkers performing the duties of road officers within the corporation.
So at Mayaro, we haven't had permanent engineers. We recently got an engineer. We recently got a county superintendent. We have road officers performing the function as road officers, CME forming, performing the functions. So for me to assess the capacity of the present engineer, he recently came, the county superintendent recently came. So far, the roads that has been patched so far is of good standard. But I just want to add on the point that was raised by Minister Mohit. The corporations struggle with doing proper road works in terms of, on the point that you were making, when you allocate funds to pave a road, based on the limitation of the funds, corporation over the years has been coming and just paving over a road. When that road really needs milling, taking off all what's there, and that's what Ministry of Works will do. Ministry of Works will come, do milling, take off the, bring back down the road to basic foundation, and then do a paving. So in the corporation, you will see we have roads that keep getting high, because they just come in and paving, because of the limitation of funds. So that collaboration that you're speaking about will really augur well for corporations, because they do not have the kinds of funds to do those comprehensive kind of work. So I just wanted to share that.
Member Benjamin.
Madam Chair, through you, I will start with the Point 14 Corporation. I have like about 4 questions. I'll try to keep it. Point 14 Corporation, what creative engineering initiatives have you adopted in the Point 14 region to improve rehabilitation and repair to your corporation's road infrastructure? And I would like you to answer in light that through reading the submissions, I saw that your roller is down. And I also had difficulty as to why Point 14 had problems with regards to complaints submission. It stated, boldly here, if I could read part of my notes, Point 14 Borough Corporation has stated candidly that it cannot provide an exact number of complaints because multiple officers receive them throughout multiple channels without a centralized system. So I kind of had difficulty with that.
Madam Chair, good afternoon. The Point 14 Corporation has in the past engaged in doing road repair work by using materials that was not conventional. In terms of my memory, I can remember using material like crush and run for sub-base and sharp sand with the CRS oil to create the kind of effect that the asphalt would use. In the next instance, I remember using the crush and run, and without the presence of the coal mix, we would have applied cement and sprinkle water on it first to get our wearing surface that would stand up for a longer period of time. So those are 2 instances when we would have used unconventional methods to give us our wearing surface that would stand up in the absence of the wearing surface material, the coal mix at Point 14. In terms of the exact number of complaints that we would have had from the public, our complaint base come from a number of areas. We have walk-in complaints, we have complaints come from the councillors who would really be an extension of the public complaining to them, and we have those that will come in writing, because we also have a complaint line at the corporation where they can make a call and submit that kind of complaint. That portion of the complaint, we have that on record, but there are some of them that we really couldn't keep up and maintain for recording purposes. So with that being said, it was creating a challenge for us to really give an exact figure in terms of the quantum of complaint that will come in to the corporation.
Thank you. Madam Chair, through you, with regards to the road officers, I know it was discussed. I would like if each sample corporation present could give us a fair understanding of road officers 1, 2, and 3, how much they have on their employed and how much is vacant. And for the permanent secretary, through you, Madam Chair, you mentioned with regards to the lowboy, and that is with regards to Princestown Fleet. Do you have a fair grasp as to the fleet throughout the 40 municipalities and how many vehicles do you have throughout that will go from lowboy to pickups? Do you have a fair understanding?
Sorry, let's revert firstly to the questions for the corporations, and bear in mind that you can provide your responses in writing. Do you have anyone in mind?
So the corporations, we could start with Princestown and microphone.
Sure.
So the question again, with regards to the road officers 1, 2, and 3, if we could get a fair understanding of how many of the positions are filled, do you have the necessary complement of officers with regards to the districts? So we could get an understanding, given that the time period we are taking into consideration 2022 to 2025, and with regards to receiving those complaints, investigating it, do you have the officers on board?
Chair. Okay, so for Kuba Tabakita Paro, the cadre would have provided for 3 monthly paid road officer 1s, 2 road officer 2, 1 road officer 3, and a county superintendent within the road section. Presently, we only have the county superintendent and a road officer 3, so we are missing 3 monthly paid road officer 1s and 2 monthly paid road officer 2s. And we've been like that for a couple of years now, but we've been trying our best to manage and work with training and get others involved.
The question is to all corporations, so as to get a fair understanding. If you don't have the information, as Chair indicated, you could provide in writing. If you have the numbers for the viewing public, we will appreciate, and let us know how long the situation existed with regards to the vacancies.
Okay, perhaps we can hear from Kuba. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, so Mayor Claro, during that period, we had, and still in this way, we have CMA officers functioning in the position of RO1. Now we have 3 of that. We had engineer during that time. We didn't have county superintendent. We didn't have RO2 and RO3. We did not have during that period, and we still don't have RO2s and RO3s. We have an engineer now. We recently got a county sup, and we still have the 3 RO1s office and workers functioning as that position, but they are not RO1s. Yes, they have one appointed, and they have 2 functioning as that. 1 appointed RO1.
So if we could hear from Sawa Lavantil now.
Through the Chair. In Sawa Lavantil, currently we have 1 monthly paid RO1 acting, 1 county superintendent who recently came in November 2025, and we have 2 daily paid workers who are performing duties of road officer positions. Between 2022 to 2024, we did not have any of the monthly paid staff. It was just the daily paid workers performing the duties and the engineer and survey officer until we got acting RO1 in 2024. Currently, we're supposed to have along with the RO1s, currently we're supposed to have 2 RO1s assigned, monthly paid, 1 RO2, 1 RO3, and a county superintendent.
Thank you. As it relates to the other corporations, we will invite you to provide your answers to that in writing. And all the questions that we have made written requests for, we will inform you of that via email, okay, through the Secretariat.
Before we move on, Chair, I did pose a question to the Permanent Sec with regards to the fleet of vehicles throughout the municipality. Does
Member, I have to check because I think there was an exercise done in 24, but I don't know if it was in relation to equipment. If not, we'll have to generate that data.
Madam Chair.
PS, from my understanding, there's a court pronouncement on daily paid personnel operating in these positions that we are discussing here. Are we still, have we allowed that to continue?
Ma'am, I can't recall that court pronouncement. I have to check with our legal unit.
Monthly paid?
The
Daily paid,
the daily
functioning
paid
as monthly paid?
As monthly paid. I'll have to check with our director of legal.
Okay, I have a question. I think many citizens would be curious about this. In submissions received from the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, I noted that WASA, they conduct road repairs following the completion of and the installation of pipelines. And so I want to ask, and I'll start with Kuva, how do these do you collaborate with WASA to ensure that road repair works are done promptly after they conduct their installations?
Chair, so from observation, officers would detect where WASA would have had a shortfall, especially with the patching works that they do. The tendency is you would find that the base course would ravel out in the shortest space of time. We do have regional coordinating meeting where we would meet with the relevant authorities, and we would try to get whatever information is required to them so that they could relate to their contractors and have it corrected.
Another question, so I'll be asking this of other corporations. I want to phrase this properly. What is the frequency of requests for road repairs as a result of the works done by WASA? If you can tell me.
Wow. Okay, so from my observation and from the corporation's perspective, maybe like about 75% of the road, of the patching works, would tend to require works to be done within a week to 2 weeks because the materials tend to unravel. There is no binder, there's rarely any binder seen when they patch the roadway and it's left. So you would find with rainfall, there's an easy disruption. So yeah, we have reached out to WASA through the regional corporation, through the regional meetings, and we have asked them to look at the ways they go about their temporary patching works, because they claim that it's temporary patching works they start with, and then they would eventually reach the permanent works after a certain time has been given. With the permanent works too, tendencies we see is after a little while, based on consolidation, you would find that within a couple of months, you might see the area would sink to a point. So from an engineering perspective, that is what we would observe.
Thank you. I also invite comment from the point 14.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair, once again. Where it concerns WASA and their repairs to their installation, the opportunity for them to restore the road is almost on the zero scale at the Point 14 area. So you'll find the Point 14 Corporation, in most instances, will now have to take that expense if we have the resources to do the work ourselves. It has not improved over a period beyond the one we are looking at now, because it have been a practice that they would open up the surface and they would not be there to do not even a temporary.
How frequent would you say these incidents in your corporation?
I would put the, through you, Madam Chair, the percentage of road repair we have to undertake in Point Fortin at present is largely because of that situation.
Is this the same across all corporations? Because I am seeing heads nodding. And so I can take it that this 70%, 75% is the frequency across all corporations.
Madam Chair, if I could add, there's a recent development in the Fanny Village area, Point Fortin, where WASA, after the corporation had paved that entire street, WASA undertook a pipeline replacement exercise, and they dug the entire length of the street for a width that is as wide as 4 feet. And what they dug was asphalt surface to restore it, or to make an attempt to restore it, using oil sand as a remedy. The oil sand now is going through a process of what we call kneading. So the oil sand now is creating waves, and now vehicles cannot use that side of the road. So you find the road now is almost reduced to a one-way street. Thank you.
Okay, Member Benjamin, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Point Fortin Corporation and all the other corporations, mention was made with regards to the coordinating meeting. And first, I'd like to get an indication, is WASA and Ministry of Works present in all the coordinating meeting? And given that you said that the roadway in question was recently paved, was it mentioned at the coordinating meeting? So at least WASA, if they had the pipeline to schedule, at that time, I was a councillor, so I would make sure and indicate that I have intent to pave the particular road. So if WASA have any project upcoming, that it will be executed before the road is paved, and as we usually blame WASA, they will come and dig after. So I think the purpose of the coordinating meeting is so that we could verbalize our projects, our intent, so there is greater cohesion. The respective agencies attending the coordinating meeting, because in one of the submissions, and forgive me, I know we are pressed for time, so I'm trying to get everything in a snippet. I saw that WASA and Ministry of Works went so far to even form a WhatsApp group with their relevant heads so that everyone will be in the know immediately. So I'd like to know what is going on in the coordinating meeting, if there is full disclosure as to the upcoming projects, and that will greater prevent waste of public funds.
Through the Chair, at the Point Fortin Corporation, I know that they were not a coordinating committee meeting, and it was one that they were putting in place to restart.
If I may interject, so for the time period in question, no coordinated meeting?
There were no coordinating meeting. I cannot say that there were no communication, but I know that there is no coordinating committee meeting. That's one.
Madam Chair, forgive me for interrupting again, because I find this extremely alarming. As a councillor, I could tell you the coordinating meeting is something that you rely on. It's the only meeting in the council. You get to interface not only with WASA, but other agencies, TN Tech, my ministry, Culture. So all the ministries are mandated by an act of parliament, or was a cabinet note, if memory serves well, to attend a coordinated meeting. So this is very alarming that you're saying the time period 2022 to 2025 that the Point Fortin Borough had no coordinated meeting. So again, the business of the people is not being addressed.
Through the Chair, I just want to make a correction. When I came into the Point Fortin Borough Corporation, there were coordinating meetings.
Was it well attended by the different agencies?
Yes, there were representatives. However, they did it on a
Which is when?
That would have been for the period 24-25. So at the Point Fortin Borough Corporation, what I know they intended is to have the coordinating meetings quarterly.
Quarterly is supposed to be monthly, so I think that is the difficulty. For you to be having something quarterly, and as we would respect with the aging infrastructure of WASA, they cannot be blamed, because when the pressure, we know what is happening with regards to the aging infrastructure. So if I may interject, quarterly is not standard procedure.
And I want to thank you very kindly, Madam Chair. I want to concur with Member Benjamin, because I find it appalling. I served as an alderman in the Port of Spain Corporation, and that was something that was monthly regional coordinator meetings in which all different agencies are invited. So I want to, before we move on to my question, to ask if any other corporation here today have been placed in the same position where your council have not been keeping regional coordinating meetings. If there are any that have not, you can indicate and we can go from there, please.
I just want to add that our corporation, Cuba Tabaki Talparo, on a monthly basis, we have our regional coordinating committee meeting. However, I think it comes down, the meeting now turns out to be like where there's a WASA leak, where there's a street light not working, and agencies not really bringing forward their program of works to the corporation so we can have that coordinating that the members speak about. Right? And I think that's the intent and purpose of the regional coordinating meeting, where we all can be on the same page of what's happening in the region. And I don't think we have that happening. But we do meet, we interact with the officers and them from the various agencies, and we like if there's a leak, we say, well, look, there's a water leak along so and so, like pole 3, 4, 5 not working, that kind of thing. But the intent and purpose of the regional coordinating meeting, I don't think it's met.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Wong, and perhaps other members can chime in very quickly, which is, are the different stakeholders in terms of WASA, TNTEC, sometimes AGC according to where PTSC, those kind of, are these representatives attending your regional coordinating committee meetings?
Yes, they are. Most of them come to our meetings.
Sanwan, they are?
Yes, we have our regional coordinating committee meeting every month. What happened this month? We have it just the 2 days or 3 days before our statutory meeting. No representative from WASA attended. No representative from TNTEC attended. No representative from Works attended. And this happened this month at our regional coordinating committee meeting. That wasn't so in the past. All of them attended. I had no problems. But what I noticed this month is that our 3 or 4 essential services or utilities did not attend.
All right. Yeah. Might I ask, through you, Chair, in terms of the PS, in light of the indication in terms of from San Juan Laventil, I'm not sure if any other corporation might be having that issue. In terms of if there's any if there can be any intervention from your at your level at the ministry in order to.
So if I may interject here, Madam Chair, through you to my colleague, I could commend the current minister because I receive, and I don't know if any other minister around the table, I received a letter asking me to send officers to the 40 municipalities, and I guess it would have came from you, Mr. Permanent Secretary, because it came through my permanent sec, to attend the coordinating meeting. But I know what would have happened when I was a councillor, the corporate secretary, if she would have seen a respective agency not attending, you'll forgive them for one instance because it could be an emergency. But if it happens consistently, the corporate sec would take it upon herself to write. And she would also invite NGOs because sometimes, as my colleague rightfully pointed out, with regards to the limit in our allocations, we always try to have persons attend the coordinating meeting that could help our purchases. But I find it extremely alarming, and if it's happening in other corporations, if you want to get the business of the people done, you need the respective agencies, because being a councillor, I could tell you of the limitations. We both know that our allocations will never be sufficient, and that has existed from time immemorial.
All right. Yeah, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
So I will take these 2 questions from one in the order of Member Mohit and then Member Marcel, and then I'd like us to go to the specific questions that we had for some of the corporations.
My question wasn't answered.
Oh, so you want to redirect the question?
Member Benjamin would have given an indication, which I'm grateful for. But I asked the question to the Permanent Secretary in relation to if there can be any intervention from the ministry, from his office, in terms of if there's any issues with other corporations and San Juan Laventil in relation to these agencies reporting to the regional coordinating committee meetings, whether any intervention from your office can assist.
I would look into it because I have to be careful of what are the powers I have and what the powers I don't have under the Municipal Corporation Act. So if it's a power of persuasion, I will see. So I will look into it.
All right, I'll give way to Member Mohit. Thank you very kindly.
Madam Chair, so I'm listening to the discussion, and through you, I would like if we can have in written response from the Point Fortin Corporation a reason as to why the corporation has not been having coordinating meetings. According to the Act, it clearly states regional coordinating meetings must take place and the corporations are governed by the Act. In addition to that, well, I'm hearing San Juan, 1 month of the non-attendance, so we can't say if that is excusable or not at this point, but if we can have responses from all the corporations to this committee, whether they have the regional coordinating meetings on a monthly basis. And those who don't have the meetings, let us get a good reasoning written to this committee for such happening at the corporation. Madam Chair, in terms of the written question, I have one. I looked at the submissions by the corporations, and I'm looking at the road repairs and maintenance conducted using internal resources at the corporations, as well as those conducted by external contractors. I'm seeing submissions for internal resources and external contractors by Cuba, Tabaqui, Talbaro, Mayaro, Rio Claro, Point Fortin, Princestown, Sangre Grande, San Juan, Laventille. But I'm seeing no account for such from Tunapuna, Piaco. Any reasons why this was not submitted?
Mr. Leland, that's for you.
All right. Through you, Chair to the committee, that was not one of the questions on the submission that we received.
Well, we are requesting it in writing, since I'm seeing here all corporations submitted, and we'll ask for it to be checked as to whether the corporation would have been sent this question, since all corporations were sent these questions. All right, so if you can please provide to this committee in writing through you, Madam Chair. Thanks a lot.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Let's go to Tunapuna. Tunapuna, the Municipal Corporation Act, Section 125 and 126, speaks to the powers of each municipal corporation concerning, let's quote this briefly for Section 125.1, subsection 1. No person may break up or open the surface, pavement, or soil of any street within a municipality which is maintainable by the council, or lay any pipe or wire or any other matter or anything or under any such street or any part of the subsoil thereof for any purpose or place, or erect any pole, post, hoarding, or barricade or other structure in any street without the prior consent of council. Now, the Act goes on to speak about a few, in terms of it's not applicable to highways, it's not applicable to certain things. And in cases where, so this would apply to TNTEC, it would apply to WASA, it would apply to TSCC, in terms of getting the approval of council before digging roads, or in some cases, even if it's permitted by the respective act, that at minimum, they must notify the corporation first, and they must bear the costs. If you have to, let's say you have to send out an engineer to supervise, a road officer to supervise, to make sure that they repair the road in the condition that it's supposed to. Based on that alone, I want to ask you whether your corporation have, in terms of the council, whether those necessary approvals have been sought by WASA and TNTEC and the other state agencies in terms of before they conduct any road works, and if they have not, in breach of the Act, whether any steps were taken by the corporation. And I want to, apart from Tunapuna, if point 14, because point 14 made a very serious statement concerning the digging up of a brand new road that you just paved. And in that circumstances as well, if you can clearly identify whether any approval was sought from WASA to the council, any prior notification, and whether the corporation took any steps pursuant to the Act and their powers under the Act, please. Yeah.
So through you, Chairman, and to the committee, when it comes to the utilities companies and these utilities authorities, they are governed under their own act and they have their own provisions. However, I can explain for WASA, once they are doing a contract job through a subcontractor, they do write to the corporation seeking approval for excavation, because they have a process, they have to provide the methodology, and then the corporation will grant an excavation permit, right? This is done for major pipeline works throughout the municipality. Other than that, for works, for emergency repairs done by WASA, where you tend to see that they will, for want of a better term, dig up the road, right? They do not communicate to us on those issues, and we end up having to follow up with them on it after. But once they are maintaining any major pipeline works, the contractor do write to the corporation seeking an excavation permit.
In light of your response concerning WASA not sending, in terms of the understanding emergency work situation, and the Act provides for that because it could be approved by way of round robin, it could be approved urgently in terms of the powers but allocated to the chief engineer or anything of that aspect. In terms of point 14, in light of the statement that you made concerning that road with the 4 feet digging, in terms of a lane, you said you didn't say it was an emergency repair or anything like that. You said it was in terms of laying pipes. So in light of those circumstances, I want to know whether, in that particular circumstances, whether strict adherence was had to the section 125 and 126 of the Municipal Corporations Act, whether WASA notified you, or whether they sought approval from your council in relation to same.
Through the Chair, in terms of answering it correctly, I would like to reserve that answer to do some investigation.
Can we, through your Chair, request that the Point 14 Corporation do submit that response to us, to the committee, in writing, please?
Okay. Yeah, we can request that in writing. And at this stage, I would like us to go to the closing remarks of each corporation. And I wish to start with Mr. Mitchell, Permanent Secretary.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the Ministry of Rural Development, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to explain our role and function and so forth. Some of the suggestions we will take back and see what we can do to improve our relations with the corporation.
Thank you. Mr. Awong, Vice Chairman of Kuba Tabaki Talparo.
Madam Chair, it has been an enlightening afternoon for us. We've been particular in some issues. However, for us to really get to the root of maintaining proper roads, etc., we need to give the corporation the necessary resources, inclusive of the financial resources and the manpower resources that is needed. As you would have heard, we have people, checkers carried out functions as road officer ones, and that does not go well for us to properly maintain roads in the region. So thanks again for having us, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Mr. Cozier from Miaro Rio Claro.
Madam Chair, I am happy for this opportunity. It's the first time I have attended one of these sessions. I was really pleased to be here. I look forward for this information presented that the are used to bring betterment to the operations of corporation. We are still continues to be committed to bring a level of improved services to the region of Maya Rio Claro, but we are dependent on the improved resources. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Cozier. Ms. Subrati of Point Fortin Borough Corporation.
Through the Chair, I would like to thank the Joint Select Committee for having us here to be part of the discussion, and we hope for a positive outcome and new initiatives coming out of this to benefit our burgesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rupnarayan from Princestown.
Through the Chair, I would like to also thank the Joint Select Committee for having us here to represent our corporation. And I hope that the information that we collect here would help improve the lives of the burgesses of the region of Princestown. Thank you.
Ms. Davis of Sangre Grande.
Through the Chair, the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation would like to thank the committee for their consideration here today, and I look forward to your recommendations as we acknowledge that this entire exercise was done with the improvements that would benefit our communities in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Walcott of San Juan Laventel.
Madam Chair, I want to thank you and your committee for helping us, helping you to understand what happens at local government. Yeah, although you have 3 members of your committee, or 4, who served in local government and understand what we go through in local government. But I want to make one point to the committee, and that is to WASA. WASA don't care about our burgesses. They don't care about our communities. They don't care about our region, because they come and they dig up the road and leave it unresolved. And that puts an additional burden on us in the regional corporations. I just want to make that statement. But all in all, thank you very much, and God bless all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De Leon from Tunapuna, Piako.
Yes. Madam Chair, honorable members, we thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. And we remain committed to deliver safe, reliable infrastructure and improve our service to the public. We appreciate the committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, it's been so clear that there's a multiplicity of issues that we still have to explore. And it's unfortunate that we could not keep you even longer to have more deliberations, but we intend to have another inquiry, and we will invite other corporations to attend that session. And at this stage, I'd like to adjourn the meeting, but before I do, I wish to thank you all for coming here and contributing to this discourse, and we were really happy to have you. And just as you have shared, we hope that what we have done today will redound to the benefit of all of your corporations. I also wish to thank the members of this committee for their usual participation, and to the support from the parliamentary staff and secretariat for their procedural and logistical support, and thank you to the listening and viewing public. I wish to also advise members of the public, our constituents, burgesses, and persons with an interest in contributing to improving the operations of state agencies. Please send your suggestions and recommendations stating how local government bodies can improve their performance in road repair and maintenance. We want you to submit your comments to the committee's email address at jsclascsa@ttparliament.org. That is jsclascsa@ttparliament.org. Thank you all, and the meeting is now adjourned.